Picard, and Schulten. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. Platinum is the highest distinction that you can get. This building has two main reasons for being a LEED Platinum. Number one, it has green roofs to collect and use rainwater, much like we experienced last night. And number two, it collects and uses river water to cool its air conditioning systems. So it pulls the river water in, sends it up through the walls, which helps insulate the building, cools the AC, and sends it back into the river only a degree or two warmer and cleaner than when it went in. Now, like our four Chicagoans can tell you that on our right is an important Chicago landmark. This is Merchandise Mart. Built in 1931 by Graham Anderson Probst and White, it is in the classic Art Deco style of architecture. Remember this description, it will come up a ton. It has an ornamental base, strong verticals pulling your eyes up, setbacks, and an ornamental top. It was originally built to help consolidate the 14 warehouses from Marshall Fields, and at the time that it was built, it was the largest building in the world by square foot, up until the construction of the Pentagon in my hometown of Washington, D.C. Yeah! Nowadays, Merchandise Mart is still at number 2, and the Pentagon is still at number 1. Now, not the Pentagon, Merchandise Mart was bought in 1947 by Joseph P. Kennedy of that Kennedy family for $16 million and sold in 1998 for, can I get a drum roll, please? $525 million, which is what you call a slight profit. Now on our left, we have a green building with a large curve. This is 333 West Wacker by Cohn, Pedersen, and Fox. It is another example of contextualist architecture. It has a 365-foot curve along the riverside to conform to the bend in the Chicago River. On its street side is a corner to conform to Chicago's grid system. Its green glass is reflective of the natural green color of the Chicago River, which it is right now thanks to algae reflecting light up off of the bottom, and movie buffs might be able to tell you that this is where Ferris Bueller's dad worked. Now it sits on an area known as the Junction. That is where we are right now. That is where the main branch of the Chicago River splits off to the north branch to our right and the south branch, which we'll start exploring now. To our right, we have a large glass building with an arch and a red sculpture in front of it. That is River Point. It is another LEED Platinum certified building by Picard and Schulten. Chicago is a distinct pleasure of having the most LEED Platinums in the nation. We have around a dozen. And the red sculpture in front is called Constellation. I'm going to really quickly hold here for the train. I'll explain why we want our bridges to be loud, but I also know that I can't fight against the train. When we get on the other side of the bridge, walk. Folks, if you all could look into your reflection of 150 North Riverside and give yourself a big wave, everyone. Don't we all look pretty today? So this is 150 North Riverside by Getchin Partners. Here's how it works. Those silver beams on the side are called I-beams. They are made from some of the strongest steel in the world from Luxembourg.
Oh, I see ourselves.
Down to bedrock between 100 and 120 feet below the Earth's surface here at the Chicago River. They run up to the top of the building where inside they need something called a tuned mass damper system. A lot of modern high-rises have them. The particular kind in 150 North Riverside is a sloshing damper system. It is a tank of 150,000 gallons of water set on rollers. So when the wind pushes the building, it tilts it slightly, moving the tank of water. But you can try this right now if you have a cup, a can, a bottle, moving it side to side. You feel the liquid inside slosh back and forth. That slosh brings the building to a near constant equilibrium or balance. Now to our left, if you look at the Bank of America building with the structural supports on its pavilion, the very narrow base and widen out and thought, hey, that looks exactly like the last building we just talked about. You'd be right. The Bank of America building is also made by Getchin Partners. And you can tell architects just like you can tell painters apart. You can tell a Van Gogh from a Monet, from a Kahlo, from a Picasso, just like you can tell a Getchin Partners from, oh, I don't know, a Graham Anderson Probst and White, who are about to flank us on either side of the boat. I'm going to talk about both of these buildings at the same time. Both of these buildings are Art Deco style, at least on the riverside. So they have ornamental bases, strong verticals pulling your eyes up, setbacks, and ornamental tops. 2 North Riverside Plaza on our right, former home of the Chicago Daily News, is Art Deco through and through. However, the Civic Opera building on our left is only Art Deco on the riverside. The front of the building is a style inspired by the French Renaissance. Why is that? Because we are floating behind a 3,500-seat theater home to the Lyric Opera of Chicago. And the front of the building is meant to invoke the feeling of going to the opera, because you are literally going to the opera. But that still doesn't explain why it's different. The building was built in 1924. It's turning 100 this year. Everybody say happy birthday, Civic Opera Building. 1924 is 11 years before architecture tours here on the river were started. We were still treating the Chicago River as an alleyway, a sewer system. Nobody thought anyone was going to want to see the river side of your building, and that's why it's party in the front, business in the back. Now, to our right, at eye level, we have Union Station, our main passenger train terminal.
There's a Union Station.
The Union Station has done something interesting. They have sold their air rights. What are those?
Oh yeah, this
When
is
you buy a piece of property in the United States, you own the air above you. No one can build on your property without your permission. So, Union Station sells their air rights to Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill to develop 4 buildings known as the Gateway Centers. Gateway 1 is behind the boat, but don't bother looking back, because its identical twin is on our right, Gateway 2. Both of these are in the international style of architecture, pioneered by a guy named Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, a thought leader in the modernist architecture movement. Van der Rohe's entire philosophy is less is more. So you will see no non-essential ornamentation on international style buildings. But quick, I'll give you 2 seconds to figure out what the ornamentation is on those international style buildings. If you looked at the very narrow vertical beams between all those windows and said, hey Joel, those aren't actually structurally supported, instead they're merely decorative or ornamental, I would say you're exactly right. Those are the only decorations on those international style buildings. But we'll see a through and through international style building by the man himself on our way back on the main branch. Now, on our left, we have the University of Illinois, the white building.
University.
The gray building with the blue glass. Ignore that one too. Look between the two and you will get the fullest view that we will get of the tallest building in Chicago. It'll start on our left, pass over our front, and end on our right.
Oh, there's the Sears Tower.
It is 1,454 feet tall. It is 110 stories,
Oh wow.
107 elevators,
Sears
9
Tower.
boxes arranged in a 3x3 grid. This is known as bundle tubular construction, where each box supports the weight of the other boxes. You can see from here on the 103rd floor the observation deck, which give you surrounding views of Chicago and the Midwest region at large.
Oh,
So, this building sways quite a lot, actually. Workers on the top
Wow.
floors report going to the bathroom and the toilet water inside sloshing from side of the toilet to side of the toilet. In 1974, when this building was opened, it was the tallest building in the world. Today, it is just 27th tallest. The tallest building, the Burj Khalifa, is still just a little less and twice as tall as this building. And its name makes this part of the tour the most controversial part of the tour. Because in 1974, when it was opened, it was home to the headquarters of Sears and Roebuck fame, and thus called the Sears Tower. Now, if you're not from Chicago, having a conversation with someone who is, you should just keep calling it the Sears Tower. Here's why. After 9/11, people really didn't want to work in high-rises anymore, understandably so. So Sears moves their operations out into the suburbs. And in 2003, the Blackstone Group gets principal occupancy of the building and its naming rights. But they don't actually change the name of the building. So not many people realize that the tallest building in Chicago had actually changed hands. Then, around a decade ago, the Willis Insurance Company, a London-based insurance company, the same people who insured the Titanic, by the way, for just $25 million and 3 floors of the building, get the naming rights to the tallest building in Chicago and change it from the Sears Tower to the Willis Tower, much to the uproar of many native Chicago. Most of us just kind of agreed to keep calling it the Sears Tower, and if you're not from Chicago, having a conversation with someone who is, you should too. I, as your tour guide, will not be offended if you come up to me and say the Willis Tower. I use both interchangeably while I'm at work, but every time I say that, I have around 6 or 7 native Chicagoans walk up to me, a little angrier than they have any right to be. and say, "It's the Sears Tower, just call it the Sears Tower." So it's saving us a little trouble. Let's call it the Sears Tower now, shall we? Now